What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the Ball to Ball series. As y'all know, every episode we keep it real. We're real men about the hair loss journeys and the ups and downs of manhood. Today is no different. We got a special guest out of LA, Joram. Joram, talk to the people, give them a little bit of insight of who you are, bro.
Sure, man. So my name is Joram Clervius. I currently live in Los Angeles, California, and I do a couple of things. Number one, for engineer for a gaming company called Jam City. I'm also the founder of a very great app that we're building right now called Ovation for allowing people to celebrate each other. So maybe we could talk about that some more. But before I lived in Los Angeles, I lived briefly in Michigan and was raised mostly in Florida. And before that, I was born and raised in Haiti. So that's part of my story.
No doubt, man. So you have quite an interesting background from Haiti to Florida to Michigan, of all places. We talked about how we have that Michigan connect, which is love. But he wasn't much of a Michigan fan, unfortunately, while he was there. So, you know what I'm saying? We'll keep that. We'll stay away from that part of the conversation. And now you're out in LA, man. Talk to me, bro. What have you, the biggest differences in some of these major cities that you've been living in, from Florida to Cali, and also of all these places you lived, which one would you say has been your favorite?
I think California right now is my favorite. You know, there is no place like California. California just seems to have like a lot of everything and more, like things that that you would probably expect to have to leave the country to find. And so far California is my favorite. Also, not just because of what's in California, but who is in California. You know, myself and my family, me and my girlfriend, we live out here, and we have a very good relationship out here, and have created nice bonds out here too. So I like California. And I think the second to that, probably like near the same level, would be Florida, mostly because I was mostly raised out there, and a large chunk of my family also live out there, you know, and good friends out there too.
No doubt, man. We're gonna dive into sports in a second because I want to get your take. Like, are you sports of the Florida fans of the Florida teams, California teams? Are you not? Do you care at all? Talk to me about that.
I don't think I care that much about sports the same way that most people in this country do. I think like when I was mostly involved in sports, when I was young, I paid attention to like the baseballs and stuff like that. And then when I got older, I got much more involved in things like bodybuilding, you know. And so I went and started competing in bodybuilding myself. And so I paid a lot of attention on like competitions went through that route. I was fans of, you know, a lot of different competitors. I haven't competed in a while. And so like I think that's my relationship with most sports. Now, whenever there's like a really big game for whichever one of those like game sports actual activities are, I'll probably pay attention, you know. For example, for like the what is that, the Super Bowl, I'll pay attention to that, I'll watch that. Or like a really big championship game for the NBA, my dad really used to like put that on a lot, and I mean that was an easy thing to watch, you know. So yeah.
That's what's up, man. Shout out to the bodybuilders out there, because one thing I always notice, bald man love to lift some weights, man. One thing bald man will do is lift some weights. You lose that hair, you're gonna go to the gym. And I know I did that for sure, man. So that's what's up. So, dude, with Come Home, one of the big things we like to talk about is the idea and concept of home, because so many people can relate to that. So, dude, when I hear you think of the word home and that concept, what memories does that bring up for you, man?
You know, actually, I was thinking about this the other day about what I would call my transition throughout like different stages of my life, because I have very vivid memories of my life in Haiti, you know, living there and interactions with friends that I had while I was a young kid in Haiti, in school in Haiti and things like that. And at one point knowing that to be everything I knew about what home was, you know. And then I moved from Haiti to Florida, and then that slowly became my home. It was of course an adjustment period, but then eventually that became my home. And that was my home for a long time. And then my home was Michigan, and now my home is California. And so in my mind, I think what's happened is something that I've read a lot about. Home is wherever you are and wherever your heart is, you know? And so to me, I can see, whenever I reflect on the different areas I've been in my life, or different places I've been in my life, I can definitely see that the things that stand out to me about my time in those places has a lot to do with who I was there, you know? And so I really believe that it's just, you know, wherever you are is where home is.
That's dope, man, because as somebody who's moved quite a bit throughout the USA, obviously Raleigh is my home. I was born and raised here, but to your point, I have so many memories and so many places that I lived at, so many strong relationships along the way that, like,
Yeah,
those still feel like a part of home. Like I could go to Michigan tomorrow, Ann Arbor, like we talked about, and I could feel like, wow, man, I like, this was home at one point. So that's a really good answer, man, bro, for sure, for sure. All right, man. Before we dive into what everybody's here for, I gotta hear a little bit about Ovation. You talked about you're a software engineer, you're building something dope right now. Talk to the people about what you're building, man, where we can.
Yeah, man. Sure. So Ovation, of course, it's spelled Oveition, but from what you're hearing, of course, it sounds like Ovation, and that's the root word for it. It's just a different spelling for that same pronunciation. And what we know that word means is just that you're celebrating someone else. And especially with the fact that the pandemic became the way that it is, it forced all of us to like go into our homes and live there. In addition to that, it forced a lot of us to become separate from each other. A lot of people moved very far from where they used to be. And there's this really important thing that I think all of us used to engage in much more often before, that we are having a hard time figuring out how to do it now, which is how do we celebrate someone else's special day or a special moment? Someone's having a birthday, a graduation, getting married, or whatever it is. How do you show that person, that you really, how do you help that person celebrate that? And so what Ovation is, it kind of just takes the whole feed that we're used to, like the social feed that you have on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever that be, and positions it, makes it so that a person can look at that whole feed in an app form. And the only things that they're seeing there as you scroll through, all of it has to do with what your celebration is. So I can open up the Ovation app on my birthday and just see videos and voice notes and even money, from my friends and family, just wishing me a happy birthday or congratulating me on graduating and things like that. And I think that this is a very good way to do something with this moment using technology to like really celebrate someone. Imagine, someone's graduating tomorrow and you gather a group of friends and people who they love and to wish them, to celebrate them and tell them, hey, congratulations, happy birthday. Also, if they want, they can add some money in there for that person. And I think that that's a very good, a very good way to celebrate anything right now.
Dude, wow. Are you doing this by yourself? You got a team?
No, so it's myself and my co-founder, who I used to work with in Michigan. Actually, he still lives there in Ypsilanti, Michigan, Jeremy. So it's the both of us working on that app right now.
Nice. And are you guys at beta yet? What's the status? So can people?
Yeah, so we are at beta, and actually for the upcoming graduation season, we're looking to do a graduation marketing campaign to invite people who are graduating to receive ovations themselves. But we have had several users as we've been like alpha testing and things like that, and we've taken a lot of feedback from them to really build the ideal product for celebrating whatever the occasion is in someone's life.
That's exciting, man. First off, congratulations, man, for one, seeing that need and obviously building it out. Excited to see where it goes, man. And obviously, a lot of people are going to be graduating for shortly. So I hope y'all tap into that market. Need my help to do that. Holler at me. We can make something happen, man, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yo, man, so that's dope, man. I always love talking to other entrepreneurs. As obviously me being one myself, it's always dope to have them on the show to learn about what they're building and things of that nature, man. So again, looking forward to seeing where Ovation goes starting today and further out in the journey, bro.
Okay, thank you. Really appreciate it, man.
Of course, dude, of course. But now for our feature presentation, man. Everybody knows why you're here, bro. Everybody, there you go, my man. My man. Everybody knows why you're here, bro. So, dude, man, obviously, like I said, we can see you today killing the ball look. But obviously, this is what you weren't born like this. At some point, you had some hair up here. Let's take it back a little bit, whether it's middle school, high school, as far as you can remember, bro. Talk to us about what kind of hair you remember growing up with, and let's walk through that journey, bro.
So, man, I think I'm a lot different today, than the person I've been. And the only thing that I'm saying that about is how much I pay attention to style or fashion or anything like that, right? Because I grew up as a nerd, a geek, and that I was just always interested in nerdy and geeky things. And I was also always very close to my older brother, who's 1 year older than me, who was always interested in the exact opposite. He was interested in being the cool guy. He was the guy who taught himself how to cut hair and was cutting other people's hair. And he paid a lot of close attention to how I treated myself too, So like I would only look good because he would cut my hair. I would only, dress well because he would buy clothes that I should wear and say, you can't go out representing me looking like this. And the only things I cared about was reading books and, just school stuff, just nerdy people stuff, stuff I really, really enjoy. And so like when I left home, when I left South Florida to go to school in Tallahassee, that was the most distance I spent away from him. Started to have to pick how I take care of my hair and things like that. And that's when I really started to notice I actually did like my hair. I had waves at one point, which he helped me to make happen. I had waves at one point, and I formed relationships with barbers and people to help me like keep everything in touch. And I used to like, I remember really liking the way that I looked with hair. As a matter of fact, I started modeling not too long after that, maybe the 2013, 2014 timeframe, and some years after that, I was like modeling and taking pictures that were being sold to like different companies for like skincare products and things like that. And even because I was in bodybuilding, so I was doing some fitness modeling and all of that, like really, you really have to worry about how everything about you looks, the whole presentation, including what your hair is. And it was a really good time to have hair because then, like someone with hair, there's so many options. At one point I'd grow it up for a little bit, have a little afro, or even put on the S curl.
Yeah.
I experimented a lot with the hair that I had when I had it.
Bro, this is good insight, man. So
Yeah.
you got to the point where you were, it's funny to hear about that transition, right? When you said like, hey, I wasn't really into like my looks. You're kind of my brother that kind of put that on me to a point where you're modeling now, right? So that's dope to see that kind of transition. Also, one thing I want to mention, you said you went to school in Tallahassee. What school was that?
Florida A&M University.
Got to shout out FAMU. There's no way you can come up here and not shout out FAMU. I got a lot of friends that went to FAMU, man. So I heard you mention that. Had to make sure we give them that shout out. Shout out to everybody that went to FAMU, man. I got love for y'all. So okay, bro. Talk to me about. You said you had a variety of different hairstyles. Talk to me about one of your favorites you can think back. Like, yo, this one was pretty sick that you had.
I think the waves. I think the
Wave.
waves was probably the best. Yeah, that was the best, man, because it was easier to make happen, and it was also like it was just very good looking. And I used to go to church a lot, and so like I'd be at church, with the waves, and that just, man, that I think it's really hard to beat the waves, man, and you don't really see it on anyone else. Like it's just a black man thing.
So did you tell me about, because obviously every guy that had wave knows the process, the do-rag, the wave cap, sport, whatever it was. Talk to me about how serious you were about your regimen with the waves.
You know what, man? One thing I'm starting to realize now is that I had the waves, and the reason why my waves were good was because I was beginning to lose hair, right? Because when you start to lose hair, your hair gets a little bit more thin. And a lot of the things that like people do to help them have the waves are things that soften their hair, make it more, I don't know, manageable. And I feel like I've always had coarse hair, like throughout my whole life memory. And at some point, my hair started to really soften a little bit and the waves became easier to make happen. I didn't know that that was a sign that, hey, this is about to leave you soon, but like, so I was enjoying because I felt like, wow, my hair is very soft and it's very easy to wave up. So I did have a whole regimen though, where I'd put on a do-rag very often and be brushing it, but it was an easy thing to do. And I think that's the thing that I liked about it too. Like it looked good and it was easy. All I had to do was put on a do-rag, brush my hair and go to the barber every week.
That's funny that you say that, when you got the waves, it was actually a
A
sign.
sign.
Hey, this was, what I'm saying. They always say, the Lord giveth, the Lord
Yeah,
That's funny, man. That's funny, bro.
yeah.
Okay, no doubt, man. So you're in is this in school in Tallahassee? You're going from the Jerry curls, the waves, etc. Do you graduate school with the waves or where?
So I didn't graduate from FAMU actually. I dropped out of FAMU and I went back to another school for software engineering. At the time it was called Lambda School, which is now called Bloom Institute of Technology.
Hold on, did
Um,
you study? Were you studying engineering at FAMU as well, or did you leave FAMU and then discover software engineering?
Actually, I think I was much more interested in computers before I went to FAMU. But when I went to FAMU, I went there as a biology major, with the idea to go either one of two routes, either into physician, like a medical physician, or to go into research, medical research for the fact, like whenever you have something that you are grown up knowing that you have a problem, and my problem was always my lungs. So the idea was either to go into pulmonary research, become the guy who finds a cure for asthma, or go help people who have asthma. So that was like my whole story since I was in Haiti. But I developed a very deep interest in computers long before I graduated high school, man. Like I was deep in MySpace designing and creating uh stuff for other people in high school. I was designing a lot of different like website stuff. I had taught myself
Self-taught.
Photoshop, and yeah, man, self-taught for the most part. And then when I did drop out of FAMU, I was able to actually get jobs as a web designer. you know, from being self-taught. And so like I think it was a whole lot easier for me to go from to transition from, I like doing this thing, I taught myself how to do a lot of it, to let me actually like learn how to do way more of it, and then be in this position now where, without knowing it, man, with this pandemic, I just feel like I made the best choice for my life. You know, because now like everyone works from home, and this is like a very ideal situation to be in.
Wow, wow, wow. That's what's up, man. That's what's up, dude.
Mhm.
So you leave FAMU, then you enter this engineering school, it sounds like. How many years of school was that new school? Also, back to the hair too, like in that new school, where were you rocking?
So from FAMU to that new school, a couple years went on between that, and those years are actually when I had my whole hair experience. You know,
Oh yes, let's talk about
yeah,
that.
yeah, and those, yeah, because like that's also when I got very deep into church, and that's when I got very deep into like working out, and like also bodybuilding came in between that time frame. And so that whole journey is where my whole hair journey started, you know. So at that point, my brother also started to become one of those people who was in and out of jail, right? And so right now he's also incarcerated. And so I didn't have him staying on top of my fashion, my style choices. And so I had to like take ownership of that myself. And so it was kind of a discovery process. And as it was a discovery process, it was also something I enjoyed doing, because the more I took care of myself, the better I looked. And the better I looked, the more I was able to fool other people to make them think that I was actually this cool guy, you know? Because I know deep down, like, you know how you raise yourself, or you come up knowing that I'm not one of the cool guys. I'm the guy who likes to read books, or who likes to do all these kind of things. But like, I actually look like
But
I
you
can
know,
fit in
bro,
with those
I will
people.
say though, I will say there is, I think there has been a turn a bit where like, because like when we were coming up, maybe like it wasn't cool to get good grades, right? Nobody was like, oh, the cool kids didn't get good grades, right? But I think there's like a switch now where it's like, oh, now like the cool guys are the smart guys that get good grades, and hopefully they can also dress and do those things. But like it's changed a lot from when we're in school, where like if you got good grades, you might have got picked on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, that's a good thing, man. If that's the truth, and that's definitely a good thing, because it's always a good thing for people to be interested in doing good, you know. So yeah, throughout that whole transition, I started you start to notice people's feedback to how well you take care of yourself, you know. So it was in addition to taking care of my body, as far as like lifting in the gym and everything like that, it was also like how I was taking care of my hair and all that. And so like all that attention is what drew me towards even modeling to begin with, you know. And I don't want to say that I did well as a model, but I did good enough that like some of my work paid, and
Yeah.
actually helped to support me to become a sponsored athlete, because I was a bodybuilder who had supplement companies sponsoring me, which was also a great experience too. But yeah, man, it was a whole journey for me. Losing my hair, I think, was the beginning of the journey, because like you imagine you go through this whole life where part of your journey is, I don't care about this thing as much as my brother cares about it. And then you start to realize, okay, well, I have to care about it, because if I don't, then I'm going to be somewhere in life that I would rather not be in, as far as like where you are, society, socially, that's the word, socially. And then now you realize that you can actually get a lot farther, and you start to own a lot of the feedback and a lot of the responses that you're getting as a result of you putting that work into yourself. And then all of that is starting to go away. Now you're like, well, I don't have my hair anymore, or I can't, like, things are just looking different now. How am I going to be able to keep up with this whole new life I've built for myself around the way I look?
So we got to take a step back here, bro. So tell me about that day that you realize, hey, like something's going wrong here. Was it the hairline? Was it when you balding here? Tell me more. 'Cause I know you said you were thinning because the wave that allowed the waves to become like, to basically end up getting to a point where you really had the dope waves. But when did you realize this was actually a real issue?
One day I went to the barber. I'm never gonna forget this, man. And you know, like they they have to do your hairline, right? And the guy pointed out to me, he was like, you know what? I can't really do it over here the way that I used to anymore. It's getting really tough. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, man, the hair is thinning over here. And this was just like this corner over here that starts to thin. And and I was like, okay, well, just do the best you can. So he just did it. And when I looked in the mirror, it didn't look like, it just looked like I had the hairline that was very sharp over here and just fainted a little bit down here, right? And in my memory, I was like, okay, maybe next time, maybe we did something wrong the last time we cut this, but I'll just let the hair grow. And the next time that we came, what he said was that the same thing is happening at the center over here too, you know? So we started to come up with a strategy where he would figure out how to cut my hair really low in the areas where the hair was still thick, and then leave some thickness where my hair was thinning to kind of like make it fit, make it match. And we did that for some time, man, and I was able to get away with that. I don't know how long, but that was like my strategy for some time. And that was at the time when I knew, okay, well, the hair was going and there's nothing I can do. But at the same time, I think, I don't know, I didn't really look into like other things to do as far as like medically to prevent myself from experiencing hair loss. I was just trying to figure out how to deal with what I have and make it continue to look the way that I was used to it looking, you know?
So while you were kind of having your barber kind of like, mix it in a bit to make sure it was kind of leveled out, were other people noticing the hair loss at all? And also,
Family,
even your family?
yeah.
Talk to me more. Tell me more.
So the guys in my family would make fun of me, of course, because my dad's bald and all his brothers are bald, and they're like, "Why are you fighting this? You're just gonna become one of us," So, and I'm like, well, I mean, I don't have to become one of you yet. I have time, and I think like with my knowledge of biology and things, I just know that this is how this works. Like if all the men in your family are bald, there's a very high likelihood of you joining them too at some point. And so like I feel like, okay, well, at some point this is going to happen, but it doesn't have to happen yet. And also like I don't think there's any, this is what you're doing here is actually a very important thing, because there was nothing for me when I was going through that transition, that like would encourage me to own the baldness, at least that I could find at the time. And I feel like if something like this existed, I probably would have had a much better transition from I'm someone who has hair, losing my hair, and now I'm having to figure my way through whatever experience that is for me emotionally in between having it and losing it, because most of the stuff that I would look up would be like, oh, hey, take some Rogaine, take some this, take some that, you can prevent yourself from losing your hair. But then I didn't really see that much online about, hey, own this. This is a thing that, you own. And the only people who would say that to me are people who would say in a joking way, where they would kind of make fun of me, hey, you don't have hair anymore, just own that and be one of us, like the guys in my family. And they'd be like, ha ha ha, you're about to join us. But like they made it seem like I'm joining them somewhere bad. Like just tell me I'm joining you somewhere that feels good.
Yeah. That's well, obviously, bro, that's the reason I decided to build this, because I was a very similar story of I was dealing with hair loss. I was very embarrassed. My dad has a full head of hair, so I didn't expect to lose my hair at all. To this day, my dad has a full head of hair. So I was embarrassed, man. And so I went through that, feeling embarrassed, wearing hats, had my friends always joking on me, like, bro, just come home, bro, like taking pictures of my bald spot. It was bad. But once I did finally come home and I realized like, oh, like I look fine, and like, women still like everything's fine. And I was like, dang, I was dealing with all that anxiety and all this embarrassment, and there was nothing out here for me to learn from other people, to feel like it was okay to lose my hair regardless of the age, those kind of things. So that's part of the reason that we wanted to build this. So thank you for that. But the funny thing, bro, is you saying that your father and your uncles were telling you like, yo, because it's funny, what happens is like when you lose your hair and you get all those jokes from people, as soon as you're bald now, I feel like automatically we feel like it's our responsibility to joke on the next person that's on this way home. You're like, oh, I see what's come on home. So it's funny how you notice that guys will go bald after they got all those jokes and be the first ones to. You can have somebody who's barely just starting to lose their hair right here. We'll be like, uh-oh, come on, it's time to join us.
How did that come about, by the way? I don't think we spoke about that. How did that phrase come about?
Yeah.
Home? How did that?
So it's funny, man, because you know, like slang, like Black slang is an interesting thing, right? Like, you have people speaking different slang in Atlanta, LA, New York, Chicago, whatever, right? So when I was losing my hair, me and my friends had a very, very unique slang, I guess. We would like a very Raleigh specific slang. So I don't know, it was just one of my random friends that was like, one day was like, you got to come home. And immediately I knew what he was talking about, and all my friends would say it. But I didn't know if it was just a North Carolina Raleigh thing, or if it was like, how some people, you'll find people all over that say something that might be like, yo, that's facts or something like that, right? Like people say that all over. So I didn't know if it was a Raleigh thing or like kind of widespread. But I came to find out that like once I started this platform and called it Come Home, like I've had some guys from New York on here, some guys from Chicago on here, and they'll be like, "That's funny, man. When I was growing up, my friends were telling me to come home too." So I think it's just one of those slang, it's just how people culture and slang kind of just travel, and that's how it came about. And I'm glad to hear that like guys all over talk about it that way because it's cool to make sure that our brand just feels like it's a natural part of the conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This was actually the first time that I heard "Come Home" related to like going bald, but I do like it because this is home.
Exactly, man. And I'm glad you said that, bro, because part of the reason we asked at the beginning of the episode is like, hey, what does home mean to you? It's because when guys think about home, it means like somewhere like familiar, somewhere comfortable, somewhere safe. When you're going through hair loss and you're like trying to hide this bald spot, you're trying to do this, you're not being yourself, right? You can't be who you are. But at home, that's where you're comfortable. You know what I'm saying? So our whole thing's like, come home, man. Stop fighting all that. Shave your head. Be confident in who you are and be comfortable in who you are. And that's kind of why there is this pretty cool play on words. It's like, hey, yeah, I'm home. I'm comfortable. I'm confident in who I am and where I am. So it is that kind of like weird play on words that somehow, that the culture just created, we're just trying to play off of it.
So I'm not actually against like any of the things that are out right now for men who want to still, have hair. Men who are going bald, for example. I think like there's a piece that you can glue onto your hair. And me saying I'm not against it is not me saying that I would do it, because I don't think I'm interested in doing it. But I think like the guys who prefer to do that instead of owning their baldness, that's, I don't know, in my opinion, that's their home. Like I was saying earlier, that home is where you are, where you feel most comfortable. And there is this challenge that I think you're doing a very good job of solving, which is us, figuring out how to be comfortable and create and own this as home. And then there's also the challenge of like people who have a home and this is just not the home for them, and then they have to figure out something else.
Yeah, that's very real. I talk to
Yeah.
there's women all the time, especially on Instagram, that will send me like videos of guys doing the glue or the wig or the
Yeah,
hair.
peace.
Um, and they'll be like, "Oh my God." Well, it's funny. Some girls would be like, "Oh my God, my man better never do this." The other girls would be like, "If it makes him happy, go for it." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
To your point, I think it's definitely to each his own. The power of this platform is like, hey man, if you're going through this and you're ready to shave, you know what I'm saying? Here, we'll show you how to do it. We'll give you some people who've also been through it. But if you're not, because I wasn't ready to shave. I tried Rogaine. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like I wanted to give up my waves. I thought this was
yeah.
all I knew at the time. So I tried Rogaine. It just ended up not working for me, and I just had to bite the bullet. And I'm happy. I'm home now, and I love my look now. But to your point, there are going to be men that feel like bald is not for them, because bald isn't for everybody. And those men will take on those other opportunities, those alternatives. But for the guys that are ready to come home and join the bald brotherhood, you know what I'm saying, we're building this something special for them here.
Yeah. And this is home for me.
My man. So
Yeah.
you're going through the hair. You're getting jokes from your uncles, your family. Are you the type to joke back, or how are you dealing with that?
No, I'm not, man. So I don't know. And it's not like a thing where I actually felt bad, because I know that these are people who love me. They're having fun. They're laughing, And so like that's the thing. And this is just an experience that I'm having that probably they also went through themselves. And I know what that is like. When you go through something and then you get to the other side of it, and you see somebody else going through it, and you feel whatever way you feel about it, and you express that however you are able to express it. So that was part of their experience. I don't think that made me feel any worse, but I don't think it also made me like being bald anymore, than it could have, because they could have done a better job being like what you're doing right now, being like, hey, this is the best place to be. So I went through my own journey, man. I was trying Rogaine. I don't know, man. I had the barbers doing what they were doing, and sometimes I would actually just shave everything to see how do I like being bald, like is this my thing? And so all of that was a part of the journey too, for me. And figuring out what to use to shave was probably the most difficult thing, because the very first time I did it, I used the razor, right? And I would say maybe like the whole back of my head and probably some of the top too all just came out in bumps. The ingrown hair bumps. And that was just, to me, I was like, okay, well, there's no winning, but then that was the beginning of my discovery of what is the right way to take care of a bald head, or of my bald head.
Yeah. I want to get
Yeah,
into that in a second. I want to get into that in a second. Before we
yeah.
dive into that, I want to hear about the first day you came home. The day you were like, "Hey, I'm gonna give it a shot." How did you do it? Did you go to the barbershop? Did you do it yourself? And what did you when you first saw yourself in the mirror after the shave? What was that reaction, man?
What triggered it for me was someone who I looked up to a lot, at a place I used to work at, who went out and got a real expensive hairpiece, I think it was at the time. And this was maybe back in 2012, 2013, or 2011 timeframe, maybe around that time frame. And it looked really nice, you know? But then in conversations with him, to me, he was a very confident person before this, and then after he got that, he lost some self confidence. It's like you do this to feel better about yourself, to walk around acting a lot better, but now you're a whole lot more self conscious than you were before. Because, and I think this was because in his mind, he probably was thinking that people were looking at him and thinking, hey, this is a fake piece, and they're probably judging him, you know, from the outside. So you're putting all this effort to hide who you are, who, you know, whatever is going on up here. And then when you go out, it actually shrinks who you are totally, you know, to people. And to me, I was like, I don't want that to be the thing that happens to me, because I had been paying very close attention to my whole, I call it my whole confidence journey, right? Because it's a weird thing, man, that I've experienced, or at least seen happen throughout my life, where I was very vivid. I was able to see life and experience it and be able to observe it as a young kid living in Haiti, knowing that to be what life is. And then moving from Haiti to here and observing and seeing what life is here, having to grow my own aspirations for myself to fit into this new thing, and then seeing that. And so like I've always been very, very, I don't know what the word is, very aware of what my journey has been into building my own self-confidence, right? And so like whenever I see that I might be doing something that might then hurt me and make it harder for me to perform confidently, and the reason why that's important to me is because the best work I do is work that I'm confident doing. So I don't want to hurt myself, you know, I don't want to hurt myself by removing my own confidence. And I'm seeing this guy putting all this effort to fight this thing, and then the thing is actually hurting the thing that I'm really working really hard on myself to build. And I didn't want that to happen to me, you know? So I was like, okay, well, I have to give this up or else I'm not going to get anywhere in life, you know? And so that's when I started to figure out, okay, well, how do I, you know, just keep my head bald? And that was the beginning of a whole new journey for me, man.
Yeah, man, dude, man, I think that's a powerful story, bro, because I can relate, and so many of us can, right? So like, I was normally a very, very confident guy. Sometimes I think even to the point, you know, I'm Nigerian, so I think like Nigerians have this prideful, very like kind of arrogant, boisterous kind of stereotype. But you know, growing up, I was always one of the cool kids. There was even a point where like it got to a point where I felt like I was confident to a fault, like I was almost arrogant, and I needed to tone it down. So like that's how confident of a guy I was. But the hair loss shook everything, shook it to the like. I was because I used to take pride in going getting the fresh lineup coming through, you know, whatever. And like when I started losing it, I didn't realize how much it played a part in who I was. You know, how much I relied on going to the barbershop, having those waves, having the fresh lineup. I didn't realize how much I relied on it till I started losing it. And I mean, bro, like, I mean, you know, like your homie, I'm like your coworker. I was always trying to wear a hat. So I was always covering it up. And I couldn't be that same version of myself anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I
Mm-hmm.
know I could feel it. I'm not sure how, you know, how much people from the outside noticed my confidence shrinking, but I could feel it. And that's all that mattered. So I know exactly what you mean. And so for you to be able to see that from somebody else and for that to help you get through your journey is good because I mean, I had to deal with it personally and then just had to look myself in the mirror and be like, hey, man, enough is enough. But by that time I had, you know, I had beat up on my own confidence for at least, you know, I struggled with hair loss for three years plus, bro.
Yeah.
It's real, man. So that is very interesting to hear how you had somebody in your circle go through it and you were able to kind of pick up cues from that and be like, hey, I don't want to have to deal with that myself.
Yeah, man. And I think I think you're probably the ideal person to be doing this, because people who do go through that kind of a journey and figure their own way out of it, and then have been able to pay attention to themselves as they go through it and learn a lot about themselves and how they were transformed by that experience, can then look back at other people going through it and do the opposite of what my dad and uncles were doing, right? Which is what you're doing now, which is to help guide them through that journey and make it so that people don't feel like they're lost the entire way. Because losing confidence does take so much more away from you than just the confidence, you know, like it takes away your ability to just operate, you know.
I love this episode, man. I love this episode. Hell yeah, man. That's
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
up. So you see him going through that and you're like, okay, like this can't be me. So that was your sign. Okay, I'm gonna shave my head, I'm gonna come home. Tell me about the day you did it, what product you used. Tell me about all that. Walk me through that situation.
The first time was not a successful time. Successful because of course I went bald, right? And it was a razor that shaved everything from my head. So there was no more hair. But then immediately the next day, my head was itching. I didn't know why. And then maybe the day after that, I started to develop the bumps. And so to me, I was like, man, there has to be a better way, you know, because people shave all the time using this thing, but this is what happened to me. And so when I looked it up, the biggest difference was the way that people's hair is would cause the ingrown hairs, right? And so because I have curly hair, the hair would still be curly before it even makes its way out of my skin. And so it started to curl in on itself and forming like the bump over the skin and just the whole discomfort. And so the way that you cut your hair becomes very important. And so I moved on from that, I think, to like the clippers, right? And the problem with the clippers is that you don't end up all the way bald. Or at least in my experience, I didn't end up all the way bald. I still have like a little fuzz. And to me, I just wanted to make sure that if I'm gonna be bald, I'm bald for real, you know? And that was a whole hard thing. And I don't know how long the journey was with dealing with those two methods before I found the one that like I've been doing since then. But I remember I walked into Walmart, I believe it was one day in Florida, and I was in like the aisle where you buy the stuff to shave your head, and there was this little canister, this little can of this thing called Magic Powder by Soft Sheen, where you just you pour some water in the powder, you mix it, and it's like a Nair thing, you know, where you just rub it all over your hair, you just sit for a minute, and then take a shower and just kind of like wash it all off, and then you end up with a bald head. And so I do that now every 2 weeks, I would say. But like that is something that I discovered very, very late on in my struggle. But like once I did, man, it was a game changer for me.
Wow, 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 wow. So this is actually the first time I've heard of anybody using this product, but I have seen it, right? So obviously
Mm-hmm.
we're coming out with scalp care products, and we're also thinking about, what kind of razor should we release at some point, what kind of shaver. And I remember seeing that product and I was like, wait, what? Why have I never heard of this? Because it seems so easy. Like, why have I
Uh-huh.
never heard of this? Who is using this product? Um, and This is my first time hearing somebody using it. But you said every 2 weeks, bro. I know your hair grows faster than that, though. So tell me more, because there's no way.
The reason why I can't use it every week, I did try using it every week, but then I started to become to get the irritation on my head. So in addition to that, like in between, what I do is I use the flat shaver, which is the shaver, which is still a clipper, you know, but like it's you just kind of like rub it over your head.
Yeah.
So I'd use the Andis T outliner and
Yep.
just shave everything down to as low as that can get it. And then I take the shaver and do that over. And so I do that like in between my magic powder shaves. But both of the, so for example, this is an in-between shave. This, what I have here is with the clippers and the shaver. And then the next time I do it, I'll do it with the powder.
So the powder, do you feel like that gives you is it a closer shave than the?
Yeah, a much closer shave, and you feel like maybe you lasered your hair off some way, man. Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's what's up, bro, man. That's super unique, and I need to look back into that product because I have never tried it, and I honestly stopped looking for it after a while. Like I saw it, and I thought, and it was almost like a light bulb to me. I was like, whoa. Why is nobody talking about this? I almost felt like I found magic or something, this way that it's called magic. It's like, wow, why is nobody talking about this? So it's so interesting to hear that you actually use that product and it's effective as well. Because now this makes me
So,
look back.
I think part of the reason why it made it easier for me to consider using that was because in bodybuilding, right, when you compete, you don't want to go on stage with a whole lot of hair on your body. And
Mhm.
so I needed to, while I was competing, figure out a way to get rid of the hair all over my body too, that like was not shaving all the time or doing all this stuff. So I was using the magic powder to do that already, to
Mhm.
remove the hair from my body. And I had already seen that that was already successful. And so to me, I'm like, this is just another part of my body, you know?
Wow, man. That's what's up, man. This is super unique. I love to hear this story. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're bald now. But I didn't get the reaction. The first time you shaved and saw what was that first reaction? Oh yeah, well, you had the bumps. So maybe the bumps ruined that reaction, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I feel like it was a learning experience, because it was not like I went bald and then that was the first time I saw myself bald. It was still like, okay, because remember I had been kind of like practicing before, okay, let me
Yeah.
just go ahead and shave my head and I know how I look bald. The biggest difference for me was figuring out how to look at the person I'm seeing in the mirror who is bald and say, this is you, like you're looking at yourself, instead of it being, I'm looking at someone in the mirror who has a different style. Like, I think that was probably, I don't know, that was the biggest transition, to look at myself bald and own that and say, okay, now this is who I am. And that is not something that I think could be done within the first time of shaving your head, man. That's a journey in itself.
Dog. Man, you're preaching right now, bro. It's like you were just, I mean, because I have so many of these, man, and a lot of them go in different directions. And some people are more open and vulnerable than others. But some of the things you're talking about, wow, just hit the nail on the head, man. Because when I first shaved my head, I left the barbershop that day, so I went to the barber to get it done. Because again, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to shave my head. I had never seen it's funny. I always tell the story. When I was losing my hair, I would get a ton of ads for Rogaine, for Hims, keeps, hey, grow it back. But there was no ads like, hey, you're losing your hair, shave it, come home, embrace it. So there was no products like, hey, this is for bald men. It was everything like grow it back. So when I did shave it, I didn't know what to do, what to get. So obviously I went to the barber. But leaving that day, I don't even think I let the barber show me a mirror, right? That's how like nervous and like anxious I was about
Yeah,
the change. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying?
yeah, man.
And I think I got to the car. It's not like I didn't even look in the mirror, the rearview mirror. I might have put my hoodie on. I wasn't ready to accept it. Um, and I think just like you said, man, I think when the first time I looked in the mirror, it was a shock. And it wasn't, and it what to me, it wasn't, I couldn't accept like, oh, this is you now, Kenny. Like this
Hmm.
is the new version of you. I was just, it was almost being like, almost looking at like I didn't know who I was looking at. And
Hmm.
it took me, man. Ask guys all this time, how long did it take you to get comfortable with your new look? And some guys say a week. Some guys say I look good immediately. I was good. Some guys say a month or so. Bro, I think it took me at least 3 months to be like, okay, this is who I am. And then even after that, it's different. It's different from being like, hey, okay, this is who I am, to then being like, oh, I'm confident in this now, right?
Hmm.
So it probably
Hmm.
took me another, I don't know, bro, 6 months or even maybe longer to be like, okay, now I'm confident in this person. Um, so man, bro, like I felt like you're the host on this one today because I'm telling stories that this just really bringing up some things, man. So that's what's up, bro. Because it is very true that guys, when you first shave, it's not instant gratification,
Hmm.
it takes a while to get used to that, bro. So hell yeah,
Yeah,
man.
and you have to rebuild your whole self-image around this new person too, and however that journey is like for you, then that just results in who you become at the end. And some people, they create a podcast for other guys at the end of that too, like you just did, but like most people, they go through that journey somewhat silently, and they make it out on the other side, whoever they are, and that's just who they are. But I feel like because I've been very strict on making sure that like I work on my own self-confidence, that I made sure that the entire time throughout the journey, I did things that would optimize me to become a much more confident person, and part of it was just to really figure out, how do I own this and like stick this into my own self-image and tell myself and convince myself and be very proud of it and know that this is the best I've ever looked. I don't think I ever looked back in any of my pictures where I had hair and wished that I was there again.
That's big, man, because I'll meet people all the time and they'll be like, Kenny, I can't imagine you with hair. You look so good
Mhm.
bald. And I always say, like, hey, hold on now. I was a bad man when I had hair too. Don't get it twisted. But to your point, it's right. Like I love this new version of myself. Like I look back
Yeah.
and yeah, that was the younger Kenny. That was
Hmm.
But this me, this is who I am today. This is the mature grown man Kenny, and I wouldn't go back either, man. Like
Yeah.
some guys would be like, "Bro, Kenny, you lying? You want if you can get a hairline right now?" I'm like, I could go get a hair transplant. I can get a piece. Like,
Hmm.
nah, like no, this is exactly who I am, who I'm supposed to be, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's a big thing for me. I believe in purpose, direction, and really like kind of owning your circumstances. And
Hmm.
obviously, if I didn't own it, I wouldn't be doing this situation. But yeah, I feel so comfortable in it now. That's like, hey, not only am I comfortable in it, but I want to make sure guys all around me are going to be able to be comfortable with it. And kind of, and that's how we got here, bro. So that's what's up, man. But talk to me about, you said you had to start doing things to help you become confident in that. Are there any things you could throw out to the audience here that were like ways that things that you did or methods that helped you become more confident in the new look?
So one of the things that I think has been, and I've only spoken about this maybe twice with some family members, has been very instrumental in developing my own self-confidence. You know how a lot of people have the conversation about, especially motivational speakers, they tell you to visualize yourself where you want to be, right? And they tell you to like really create the ideal image of yourself and lock that into your mind. The cool thing about being someone who went through this period where I did model, and so like I had the ability to work with photographers who would make you look really good, and it would be you at the end. You know, you'd look at the picture and really see someone who, there's a part of your mind that feels like there's a distance between who this person is, the perfectness of this person, and who I am right now. And so what I used that for was to, number one, idealize this version of myself and work towards creating and making sure that this person I'm seeing in the picture is real, right? And so I started to like take that and flip it on itself, and did that with my own bald head. So getting very nice pictures of myself taken with my bald head and things like that, and looking at it and being like, okay, well, this is a very good looking you know, and you can work to really like build that up to yourself and become that person. And eventually, I think that was probably just one of the things, but a lot, I think most of the things that I do are internal, you know, psychologically. I read a lot of books, right? And so like there's a lot of books about like self-image and just molding your own self-image to become the kind of person who you want to become. And a lot of people do that for the purpose of being successful in their career, but also there's the idea of like what's the things that can hold you back from being successful is, I think, like your own self-confidence, you know, your ability to actually like be willing to go for the things that really push you forward. And so many things could take you from that, could prevent you from going forward, not just, you know, your bald head. I don't know, you know, if maybe I'm short and maybe I'm shorter than I want to be, you know, or maybe my body is not shaped the way that I want it to be shaped. And so I think part of that was, I'm probably just discovering that now that I speak to you, that part of that probably was what drove me into going into bodybuilding, you know, too, was maybe if I do this, I will definitely become a much more confident person, which it did do for me, you know? And so like there was all these other things that I did, and looking at the way that I treated, the way that I looked as far as it was my hair, man, like I was like, I need to own this. And I did everything in my power to make sure that, okay, well, this is the best me that could ever exist. And really, really believe that.
Man, man. I think the power of manifesting things is real. Um, but then also, like you talking about like a visual
Yeah.
manifesting, which
Yeah,
I
man.
is a little bit different, and you don't hear that as much. You know, that you hear speak it to existence, but it's almost different when you can see it, and
Yeah.
that's powerful, man. Can you name me one of your favorite self-help, self-image, whatever books that you would say, hey, like if you're listening to this, you should read this book?
Oh my God, Psycho Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. I read it for the first time in 2015, I think it was, and I read it many times after that. The last time was at the very beginning of this year. I don't know. I have this goal to read it every year, and the main reason is because I think that was the very first actual self-development book. It was written in the 1960s by this plastic surgeon, and the reason why he did it was because as a plastic surgeon, you're in this position where you have people coming to you and they say they will be happier if maybe they have a smaller nose, or if something else is changed about their body. And he has this whole experience where people are expected after he does the thing to them to become a happier person, right? And he was able to watch some people come in and that did happen, or some people come in and he did the work for them and they didn't change how they felt about themselves at all. And some people like people around them would tell them, yeah, you are actually much better looking, but they still kept this self-image of I'm ugly and, you know, like I need some more work done. And that still exists today. And so he became much more curious about what is it that's happening deep down about us, you know, and the same approach that he took to being surgical about like people's physical aspects, he took that to like people's self-image, and he was like, these are the things you can do to really transform your self-image, so that no matter what you do on the outside, you can also make sure that on the inside you're good, you know. And there are some really great strategies in that book. That's one of my favorite books, period, man. Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. I encourage everyone to read that book, because it really puts you in a position where you can act and live confidently and just be yourself, be fully expressive, and not have to like shrink yourself in any kind of way, you know, just be your very best self.
Hey, hope y'all listening. That's a free gem right there. That's a free gem. I better go grab that book yesterday.
Yeah, I'm serious like about it. That's like one of my favorite books, man.
Wow. Psycho-Cybernetics. I love it. Okay. For sure, man. And I will say, bro, this is why I love this episode so much. This is our first ever book recommendation on this. And then we're probably 60 episodes in. And this is our first ever book suggestion and recommendation. That's why I love the way this episode has gone, because every episode is different, but this is a unique one, and I'm so happy to have got you to join us today, man. This is amazing.
Me too, man.
Thank you, bro. So we talked about your grooming routine up to this point. We talked about so much, man. And one thing I'm glad we're talking about, because we just got a bit into almost the idea of body positivity, I guess, which is it's on the rise now, right? You know, and I think guys sometimes look at it as a thing that women deal with. Like, you know, women are always worried about their bodies, blah, blah, blah. You know, and guys sometimes don't feel like, you know, well, I feel like women seem to have to deal with a lot more, because, you know, they have a lot more going on in their bodies than guys do, et cetera. But we can't forget about fellas. Fellas do still deal with some of these things. And whether it's hair loss and losing your hair, what that can do to your confidence, whether it's weight, there's so many things that guys deal with, especially when they're going from boy to man, that sometimes we don't know how to handle. And, you know, it wasn't always where it was super easy to feel comfortable talking about what you're going through, right? I think we're in a space now that mental health, mental wellness is no longer taboo, and guys can feel open to talk about some of these things without feeling like, you know, feeling weak or feeling like vulnerable. But it wasn't always like that. So there's been so many years where guys are having to deal with some of these things and not have any outlets. And luckily for today, for us, some of that has changed, and now we do have an opportunity to express ourselves. I've created this for guys like us to come through and talk about hair loss, but I love it when it gets bigger, right? Because I don't want this to only ever just be about hair loss. There's so many other things that we can talk about, and today's been a beautiful episode because we've gotten to all of those things already. Let's get into the. Oh, you got anything else to say?
No.
Okay, cool.
I appreciate that, man.
We're gonna go into the back half now, man. I'm going to ask you a few questions, bro, and just let me know the first answer that comes to the top of your head, bro. First question here is, as bald men, you know what I'm saying, we only have one look. It's the best look out, but we only have one look. So with that being said, we have to wear hats a lot. Guys will wear hats to kind of switch up their look, you know what I'm saying? So the question here is, do you wear hats? And if so, what's your like favorite or go-to hat?
So the answer is yes. I don't know if I have a favorite or go-to hat, but I do cover my head most of the time with hoodies, you know? So like I'll wear some kind of jacket that has something that can cover my head, or some kind of like sleeveless hoodie type of thing, but something that has something to cover my head, because I don't know, man. I feel like the world thinks that being bald is very low maintenance, but it's the exact opposite. And so like you go 1 or 2 days without shaving your head, and now it's time to figure out a way to cover it, you know? And the hoodies come in very handy for me. That.
Yeah, man. So that's one of the biggest thing I noticed early on. I was like, wait, I gotta shave again. I think the first time I went bald, I was like, wait, I gotta shave again. Because, you know, growing up being at the barbershop, I would see bald guys in the chair, and I'm like, what are you doing here? You don't have any hair. Why are you at the barbershop? Not now to, you know, fast forward karma. I'm looking at myself like, oh, that's why they're there. Because you got to shave your head every other day. Which is, I'm kind of like you, man. I'm not one of those guys that got to the point yet that I could shave every day, every other day. So I probably shave every 4 days, 5 days. So after day 2, I'm toboggan's on, some kind of hat is on to cover it, because my level of maintenance, I just haven't haven't got to that point where I'm that consistent yet. So that's what's up, man. And you also
I
go ahead.
so I don't think I've reached, like, I guess to answer to the question that you asked, I don't think I've reached a point where I'm confident knowing that I have a favorite thing to cover my head up with, at those times. But the thing is about like this stage of my life is I spend so much more time at home these days than before, so I don't have to worry about covering my head. Most of the time when I go places, it's to the gym, and I don't know, I don't really care that much, about like what I look like with my head at the gym.
Yeah. Yeah, nah, same. I go to the gym and I don't cover nothing up. But I love how you said the sleeveless hoodie, because only a guy with some nice biceps are wearing a sleeveless hoodie, man. So
Yeah,
salute to my boy. That's how we know he be in the gym for real.
yeah, yeah.
Next question here, bro. We've talked about your grooming regimen a bit already, but what would you say is your go-to or favorite grooming products?
The magic powder. The magic powder, man. Yeah, I'll travel, dude. When I first moved to California, I think California has like a very a shortage of magic powders in their stores because it's very popular in the stores in Florida. Like I'd go into CVS or Walgreens, Walmart, Target, it's there. And then when I moved out here, it was really difficult and hard to find. And there was one time I went to Florida, and I kid you not, like I had a whole bag, like a whole travel bag, that I just filled up with like magic powders from different places. I just came back here and had like a cabinet stocked up for whenever I needed them because it's hard to find, and they're actually much more expensive on Amazon than they are at like Walmart.
That's funny, man, because when I think of LA, I think of LA as like, image, glamour, Hollywood,
It is.
So you would think everybody's, no hair. I'm in my bikini all the time, whatever. So it's interesting that product wouldn't be of high demand or out there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just hard to find. It's not that it's not here, but it's very hard to find. Like I just feel like it was very easy, for me to just like go to a store and find it when I was in Florida. But out here, man, that's not the case.
Not quite. Interesting.
Yeah.
Bro, man, we haven't really talked too much about the guys who have kind of laid the foundation for me and you to be, these boss ass ball men today, right? There's been some guys who've come before us that really showed us the way. And I have this vision one day that the brand is going to recreate Mount Rushmore. And instead of the presidents, it's going to be the top 4 most iconic ball men. So every episode, I'm gathering this data to understand who do guys believe are the top 4. So I need to ask you that, bro. Who would be your top 4 most iconic ball men that you would put on the Mount Rushmore?
So I'll go from 4 to 1. I think the 4th one is someone who's still um, on their way to coming home. And I mean, I feel like the whole world knows, he's on his way. He's gonna get there. So that's LeBron James. He's on his way. He's gonna make it there. I look up to him a lot, but we all have our journey, and some of us make that journey publicly. So he's one of those people. That's 4. The 3rd person is Michael Jordan because, come on. The second person is Jeff Bezos because obviously, and the first person is myself.
Love that list. I love that list. 1, because it's spot on. And 2, I also love a list when a guy will throw himself on that list. Because sometimes guys will be like, "Well, can I put myself on the list?" I'm saying, if you're the one of the most iconic, of course you can. So I'm glad.
Yeah, man. I think a lot of people, a lot of us have a hard time feeling good about ourselves, and behaving and carrying ourselves as someone that we look up to. And you can't really expect anybody else to look up to someone you can't look up to. Yeah.
That guy's always preaching. I love this. I love it. I love it. All right, man. That's our top 4. Going to the final 2 questions here, man. Final 2 questions, bro. 1, you've this. I know you're going to give a great answer here because this entire episode has probably been leading up to something like this here. If somebody right now is watching this episode and they're still struggling with hair loss, what advice could you give them, bro? What's the best advice you would give them?
Keep going. And I'm just gonna tell them to keep going in whatever direction they think is right for them, because there's a likelihood that they'll end up somewhere that's different than where I am. But if ideally, if I was in their position, I would definitely make my way home a lot quicker than I did. And so that's the best advice I can give. If I'm you, where I'm at right now, I'd get there sooner than I did, But because I'm not you and you are you, and you have your own journey to go through. However you're gonna get through it, just keep going. Just make sure you take care of yourself. Home for you is wherever you're happiest, and getting there is probably the best thing for you. Just like LeBron James, man, I look up to the guy so much, and I think it's probably one of the best things that we have, just as a whole human population, to be able to watch other people publicly go through journeys that we go through privately.
Ooh, boy, oh boy. The funny thing is, well, it's not funny, but it's real, is I have this, I mean, it's a lofty goal, but I feel like it's going to happen somehow. I have this goal of mine that somehow somebody's going to get me in contact with LeBron, and we're going to get him on board as an investor of our company. And we're going to have him do a whole marketing campaign around him coming home, finally accepting it. And if you've been following LeBron, you probably saw when he left Cleveland to go to Miami, he had the decision. It was a big deal. I have this marketing campaign where we do decision part 2. And it's like LeBron's like, same kind of setup, and people are like, where is he going? But this time the decision to come home. So
man, I like that. Yeah, he's decided to take his talents home, dude. I think if you work real hard enough, man, you'll make it happen.
yeah,
I think that's well within your. I'm sorry, I was just receiving a phone call. I think that's well within what you're able to do, man, because I think you're already on that path.
thank you, man. So it's gonna happen, man. So you out in LA, man. You meet somebody out there who knows somebody that knows LeBron. Tell them you know somebody that needs to talk to him.
Okay.
My man.
I got you, man.
Last question here, bro, and my favorite question of every single episode is we call it "Come Home Again" from the hair loss standpoint. Hey, losing your hair, come home, embrace that. But also the reason we spell it in French with our brand is that "come home" in French means like a man or as a man. So it's all about kind of helping men embrace their natural evolution. So it's like a play on words there, right? So we've talked a lot about what it means to be a man, like a man. So when you think about or you hear the term, man, I want to know what does that mean to you today? Because I feel like that's changed a lot over time, especially for guys who might have been born, in the '90s, who grew up, seeing like, oh, a man has to be dominant, show no emotions, have multiple women, all these things that were fed via the media. And obviously, I think you grow up and you start to have your own opinion on what a man is. So what does it mean, bro, for you to be a man?
So first of all, I actually speak French. French is like the primary language in Haiti. So, and I didn't even like, it's crazy. I didn't even think about that. Like, come home, like that doesn't mean what what it means. What you said it means in French, but like, yeah. So as a man, and what it means to be a man, or what it means to be, as far as like that for me, I really like the way that we are defining everything in the current age. And the reason that is because part of what's driving this whole push to own whatever you identify as is people figuring out how to be happy with themselves, and figuring out how to place this self that I'm happy with inside of this world that has other people who are also happy with themselves, and also some people who are not that happy with themselves too. And I think a man is someone who is able to own all of that and not be affected in any negative way by any of it. And be able to like really guide their life, and support and protect the people they love, and be able to provide for the people they love, and accomplish their life mission without hurting someone else, while bringing their whole family along with them, protecting their family, and paving the way for the next generation. But that, I think, is that's just my ideal, man.
Wow. Wow, wow, well, talked about legacy, talked about family, being a protector, and talked about success and achievement. You know what I mean? And I think all those are really amazing things that you have to think about, especially when you try to define who and what a man is today. So that's beautiful, bro. Last thing I'll say to you, man, or ask you is, I feel like this could just be me, but I want to know if I am biased, because I probably am. Um, I feel like, now that I've embraced this ball look, I feel like I'm starting to see a lot of men around me as well, like kind of embrace. I feel like we're in this moment right now where like, no, everybody's bald these days. Where I feel like, there used to be kind of a stigma around it.
Mhm.
But again, I could be inherently biased, right? Because I'm building a bald man's platform. So I want to hear from you. Do you feel like you're starting to see more men kind of embrace the ball look than you recall seeing over time?
I think I'm probably in the same position as you, that I'm probably also biased because it's true that I am seeing more men being bald or embracing being bald. But at the same time, because I'm one of them, maybe I'm just able to see more people like myself, just like you are. So that is a possibility. But I mean, there is, something like this didn't exist back then, right? And if there weren't more guys embracing being bald, there would be less of a chance that there would be a podcast for guys who are embracing being bald. So I think there's a likelihood that it's more than just bias too.
That's his engineering background talking right there, guys. That's he said the data is lining up.
Yeah, it's the data.
I love it. I love it,
Yeah.
man. Yo,
Yeah.
one of my favorite episodes to date. I really love just how we've covered so many different things. And again, we got a book recommendation on this. We talked about body positivity very early on. It was just, oh man, a beautiful episode. So open, so vulnerable. And I appreciate you for joining us today, bro. Dude, if they want to find you on Instagram or social media because they loved your story, what's the best way for people to find you?
Yeah, sure. So on Instagram, I'm Joram.Clervius. That's JORAM.CLERVIUS. That's just my whole name. And then on Twitter, I'm Clervius. So just my last name. I'm the same Joram.Clervius on TikTok as well, but I'm not really that active there. And on LinkedIn, I'm also Clervius. That's it.
And then if they want to find out, learn more about Ovation, how can they find that, my boy?
Ovation.com, OVEISHN.com. Try it out.
We love it.
You can actually try it out today.
Look, hey, today it's live today, people. Go check it out for sure, man. That's a beautiful thing, man. Dude, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, one of my favorite episodes. We cover so much, man. I'm looking forward to staying in contact. And if I'm ever out in LA, I'll definitely give you a ring. We got to get up, grab a drink or something like that, my boy.
Let's do it, man. Really appreciate it. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, guys. As I say at the end of every episode, y'all stay bald, y'all stay bold, and we'll catch y'all soon. Later.